Good morning and welcome to the Wilderness Devotional. You know, I have been in these conversations lately with different people, and one of the common denominators that I hear coming up is that they're using this stay-at-home time to really try to hear from God in a different kind of way maybe than they have before. They're pressing in and asking some of the hard questions about relationships that they're in or jobs that they're trying to either get into or get out of or struggling with, or just other issues that are coming up that they really feel like they need God and His answer for. But some of them are kind of frustrated because they don't feel like God is connecting with them, or really that they're connecting with God. That there's this split that's happened, that they're just not able to hear His voice in a way to where they're confident about an answer or to even to what He's saying. And so I thought that what we would do this week during the wilderness is that we would look at some of these different blocks that can hinder us from hearing the voice of God in our everyday life, whether it's through prayer or whatever kind of means that we are seeking after God. But the things that we have in our lives that can keep us from hearing Him clearly. And the first one I want to look at today is pride. But before we do that, let's go ahead and start our practice with prayer. God, we thank You for today. We thank You for the opportunity to serve You. God, I ask that You would open our ears and our hearts and our spirits to You, that we would have the courage to ask the hard question of You, of God, what is blocking me from hearing You? And then that we would have the courage also to turn it over to You, ask forgiveness and give it up to You so that we can hear You more clearly. We thank You and we praise You in Your name. Amen. So pride is this attitude of, I know it all. I don't need any input from anybody else. I've got all the knowledge, all the wisdom, and I can decide who I listen to and who I don't listen to, and if there's ever any input in my life other than my own thoughts and processes. You know, it's really this spirit of being unteachable, unbendable, unchanging. It's very unrepentant much of the time, and even more so is unwilling to take responsibility because why would it need to? It's always right. The difficulty is that a lot of us struggle with pride in some form or fashion, and sometimes it's very apparent, but a lot of times it's kept inside and we're able to kind of hide it a little bit, or it's a little more undercover. Well, regardless of whether it's undercover or blatantly out there, pride is one of those blocks that can really hinder us from hearing the voice of God when we're trying to connect with Him. You know, the Bible is super clear about how God feels about pride. In one of the verses in James 4:6, it says this: God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. That's interesting. So it's not just that He's like, no, I really prefer for you not to be proud. He completely opposes the proud, but addresses and functions with the humble. David also says in Psalms 25, verse 9, he says, He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them His way. Well, that's interesting too. So with humility, you are teachable, but with pride, you're not teachable. And so God is able to speak to somebody who is more teachable and open. Wouldn't you agree? So pride, you know, when we get it all twisted up in our lives and twisted up in our relationship with God, it really becomes this idea that God is no longer in control, but that I am in control of my own destiny and I set the direction. You know, now we know that God is not this puppet master and that we have free will and choice, absolutely, even within our relationship with God. But the spirit of pride is so adamant that it doesn't even consult God, because what's the point? There's this phrase in my home that if you're around much or even a fly on the wall, you would hear us say it usually daily to all of our kids, even to ourselves, that we need to be teachable and trainable. We need to have this teachable and trainable spirit so that we can really take on this humility, because nobody knows everything. And who wants that pressure of having to know everything anyway? And so we really try to instill in ourselves and our kids the idea of being teachable and trainable. And humility is exactly that, is understanding that you don't have to know it all because God does. And He wants to impart His wisdom. He wants to speak that wisdom and that knowledge into your life. And he wants to do it in such a way that there's free and open flowing communication. But if we have pride, it's going to really silence him and stifle that relationship. So my question for you today is this: do you have a sense or a spirit of pride in your life that's really getting in the way of you hearing God? And if so, is it time for you to turn that over to him and ask forgiveness? Is it time for you to ask him to make you teachable and trainable? I hope you have a great day, and I really look forward to seeing you soon.